Hello. In the next few minutes, I'll be discussing the ethical aspects of clinical research. Ethics, as you all know, is a set of rules which tell us what is right and what is wrong. How does it apply to clinical research? Research, what we are trying to do is to gain new knowledge about the human body or about some diseases. And in the bargain, it's likely that the study participants run the risk of harm to themselves. It's clinical, it is ethics which protects these people from harm as much as possible, and then it also preserves the integrity of scientific methods. As we all know, the ethical guidelines tell us what to do and how to do this research, and these guidelines are the result of the abuse of research which have taken place in the past. You may all know the famous Joseph Mengele of the Nazi Germany, who did inhuman experiments on twins. He used to cut open their abdomen and take out their spleen, weigh it and measure it, and then, even though he said that his objective was to come out with a super race of Germans, these were the things that he was doing. There are also studies like time to death studies in which people are put in a freezer, and then the time when their heart stopped, ECG stopped, was looked into. And you may also know about the Block 10 studies in the Block 10, where women were artificially inseminated with sperms of animals, and Karl Klauberg, the obstetrician who did these experiments, used to sit back and shout at them saying that, look, monsters are growing in your womb. And then he used to sterilize these women by injecting caustics into their uterus. And as these studies were going on in Germany, let's say what was happening in US, the famous Tuskegee experiments were going on. In Tuskegee, African Americans were being treated for syphilis, but they were not told that they are not getting the treatment, that the doctor was studying actually what was happening to, what was the natural history of the disease. And a lot of subjects were subjected to this type of experiments. And the only good thing which came out of this was some ethics guidelines. And in India, we follow the National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical Health Research involving human participants by the ICMR, which was published in 2017, or rather updated in 2017. There are many other guidelines, the Helsinki Declaration, the Bellman Report, the GCP guidelines, the Nuremberg Code, etc. But for us, the most important and the comprehensive one in India is definitely the National Ethical Guidelines. This is a book which every researcher should possess and adhere to. Clinical research designates an activity to test a hypothesis, permit conclusions to be drawn, and thereby contribute to generalizable knowledge. And it is described in the form of a formal protocol. The protocol set forth an objective and a set of procedures designed to reach that objective. And when a person does research, what he does is that he takes the protocol and goes to the institutional ethics committee to get it approved. The protocol should be vetted and approved by an institutional ethics committee. And a research cannot be done if the institution does not have an ethics committee. All ethics committees in institutions should be registered as per Rule 122 of the Drugs and Cosmetic Rules 1945, dated 8th February 2013. And the accreditation given by the cosmetic rules lasts only for 3 years, and this accreditation should be renewed every 3 years. And there are many researches which are exempt from review, like studying the impact of a program, a public health intervention program, or studying about biological specimens which are kept, which are unidentifiable. But it's always better that you make the ethics committee decide whether it can be waived, a review can be waived or not. But the PI should not decide that it is exempt from. We should know that the persons doing research should be qualified and should know what they are doing. And research by unqualified individuals is unethical. And research should be properly designed. A poorly designed research is unethical because it will not lead us to any conclusion, any worthwhile conclusion. And here you are seeing Roger Federer playing cricket. He's a tennis player. Similarly, I would like to say that in clinical trials with Ayush, when you are carrying out a study with an Ayush remedy, a person dealing with that remedy, like let's say we are doing a research on Ayurvedic drug in the medical college, then that research team should have a qualified person from the system of medicine for which the drug is being tried. Otherwise, it is unethical. This is something that we all should know. There are three basic ethical principles: the respect for persons, justice, and beneficence and non-malificence. We'll discuss them in detail. Beneficence or non-malificence beneficence relate to the benefits of research, while non-maleficence relates to the potential risks of participation. The basic thing is do no harm. Non-maleficence requires a high level of sensitivity from the researchers about what constitutes harm. Discomfort and harm can be physiological, emotional, social, or economic in nature. So harm can be of all these things. Justice refers to the thing that we should treat people fairly. Do not exploit those who are readily available or can easily do research on these people. Fair distribution of risks and benefits of research based on the problem or issue under investigation is proper justice. And the most important, the respect for persons. Respect for persons is the central premise of the concept of informed consent and shared decision making. Informed consent is a process by which a person learns and understands the purpose and benefits of risks of the research and then agrees to participate in the research. So what he does is that the person or the responsible party signs a statement confirming that they understand the risks and benefits of the study, and they sign it without coercion. That is the most important thing. So the three important things in informed consent are: first, you relate the information to the study participant and ensure that he understands it. And third, after understanding it, he consents without coercion. Any procedure done without consent should amount to battery or assault. Any procedure in a person should not be done without consent, informed consent. The required elements of the consent or the name of the condition of the disease should be told, that you are studying such and such a disease, and that what the person is undergoing is research and not treatment. Many people agree thinking that it is part of the treatment. No, it is research. And then the purpose of the research should be told to them, that how long you are going to do the research on the person, and then the procedure that will be done, the procedure that are experimental. And what are the potential risks and benefits, and what are the alternative things which are available to the persons which he can undertake. For research involving greater than minimal risk, you should tell them that compensation is available, and if there is any risk involved, and if there is treatment for that, it will be free of cost. And the contact information of the ethics committee chairman and the PI should be provided to them. Assurance that the participation is voluntary and that they can withdraw at any time. Protection of confidentiality is an important thing that we should be told that their confidentiality will be protected. And then it is the primary responsibility of the researcher to obtain an informed consent. If an individual is not capable of giving informed consent, the consent of the legally acceptable or authorized representative should be obtained. If the participant or the legally acceptable representative is illiterate. A literate, impartial witness should also be present during the informed consent process. It's an important thing. Let us take the case of a child. This child, I'm going to do a research on him. Let us say I'm going to I'm going to do an endoscopy on this child. The child is crying. The father said, you can do the study research. He has given an informed consent. Can you do the study if the child is crying? But you should know that the father can give consent, but the children should give their assent. Then only the study can be done. So that's the difference between consent and assent. Assent is something, an agreement to participate given by a person who has not reached the age of consent. Next, there are vulnerable subjects. The classical example is medical students. A student who is working in your department, you are the head of the department, and you ask him to take part in a research, as being study subject matter, he won't refuse. And I think they are vulnerable subjects. You should know that the pregnant women, human fetuses and neonates, prisoners, minorities, students, cognitively impaired persons, educationally disadvantaged, AIDS, HIV subject, they are all vulnerable subjects. You should know that they are susceptible to exploitation, unequal power relations, and there is dependency, and there is absence of voluntariness. They are not giving voluntary consent. So you should take into account before recruiting vulnerable subjects into research, and matter may be avoided. This is according to the Government of India rules. Whoever himself or by any other person or on his behalf conducts clinical trials with any drug or investigational new drug or any medical device or investigational medical device in contravention of section 4p and the rules made therein shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 3 years, but which may extend to 5 years, and with fine which may extend to 10 lakh rupees. This is something that so don't do a research with a new drug unless it is approved by the licensing authority. Don't do a research unless it is approved by the ethics committee. You can be put behind bars. There is the Clinical Trial Registry of India. All clinical trials should be registered with the Clinical Trial Registry of India before recruiting the first patient. Registration with CTRI is voluntary for other biomedical and health research, for example, the PG thesis. If there is not a clinical trial, it is voluntary. Editors of major biomedical journals insist that only registered trials will be considered for publication in their journal. Helsinki Declaration states that every research study involving human subject must be registered in a publicly accessible database before recruitment of the first subject. Now that once you have done a research, there are some Helsinki Declaration on publication of research. Research has to be communicated. Without this, research is unfinished. The time, energy and money spent should not be wasted. Authors, editors, publishers and sponsors all have ethical obligation with regard to publication of research. Authors have a duty to make publicly available the results of their research and are accountable for the accuracy of their results. And negative and inconclusive as well as positive results must be published. Even negative results are the results of good research. Don't waste the effort. Even that should be published. And when you are publishing, you should declare all sources of funding, institutional affiliation, and conflicts of interest should be declared. And reports of research not in accordance with the principles of this declaration or the Declaration of Helsinki should not be accepted for publications in the journals. So I would like to conclude by saying that in research on man, the interest of science and society should never take precedence over the consideration related to the well-being of the study subjects. Never perform an experiment which might be harmful to man, even though highly advantageous to science and to the health of others. Thank you.